Zohar does is to help us understand ourself. It dissects our desires into different beings, even though we could say we're really one. But there are these different aspects of it, of the self. And the Zohar wants to put like a laser-like emphasis on the individual aspects of the self. Why does it do that? Why doesn't it just say it's all one? Why get into the details? Because it wants self-knowledge for the sake of transformation. Rabbi Elazar Mukim La Lahaikra Bi Yacov. Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, says, you know what this verse is going on? It's going on Jacob. Now that's why it's about V'yishlach Yaakov Malachim, that Jacob sent angels. The Kuchurichu Azmin Bahadei Malachim Mishayin Mimanin begin the Ha'iu Asi Shalem B'Shiftin Ilayin Kulu Shleimin Kedekayais. You want to know what it is that this verse in the beginning of our parsha, which is similar to the verse in Psalms, is that God is saying, look at Jacob, he deserves my angels. Why? Because Jacob is complete. Jacob attains some certain level of self-mastery, of working on himself, that specifically came to fruition in the way he was able to have a family that had some power in them. The 12 tribes, there was something about his ability to create what we call the 12 tribes, that completeness, that reflected back on him. Where do we see this? Like it says, V'Yakov halach l'darko, v'yifku b'malach Elokim, v'yitmar. Like it says that Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. In other words, there are literally angels. That we can learn that this is the type of person Jacob was, and therefore from there we can apply that to this verse as well, to say that he had angels at his kind of disposal, for lack of a better word. I don't like that word, but around him, that he was able to send forth. L'hach l'kivin ishtalziv minei de Lavan, v'esparish minei k'dei nizdavgus imei shchinta. Now, since Jacob had to basically, essentially flee from Lavan, which was very dangerous on many levels, and he had to be saved, God had to intervene and stop Lavan from harming him. And he was also entering back into the Holy Land. He was coming from Haran, which is Chutz La'aretz, going back into Eretz Yisrael. So again, this idea is that the Shekhinah, so we have Malachim, we have angels. Where do Malachim come? To where the Shekhinah rests. Where does the Shekhinah rest? To where there's wholeness. Where in a place is the Shekhinah rest? In Eretz Yisrael. All of these things were happening simultaneously. He was leaving Lavan, who was not a nice person. He needed already the Shekhinah to be with him, to protect him. So there's different Shekhinahs, in the sense that one Shekhinah is there just to protect you, but it may not be enough to get you to see things on a new level, but it's enough to keep you away from harm. And then there's another Shekhinah that's just like showing you things that you could never really believe. So the first level of what I just described, meaning the Shekhinah in terms of protection, that he already had in the house of Lavan. And as he went into Eretz Yisrael, so then the deeper Shekhinah, the Shekhinah which is just like for example, you could have a parent who will protect the child, but he's not going to get involved to show how much he loves the child at that moment, but he'll do whatever he can to make sure the child is not harmed. But in Eretz Yisrael is where he shows his real love, so to speak. V'hach l'kivin dishas min l'lavan l'ha'esparish min l'kedein estavgas imei shchinta v'asa m'shayin kadishin l'sachalei u'chedein v'yomer. Next page. Yacov kasharam Ume'inun malachim shadar le Esav. V'yichsiv yishlach Yaakov malachim. Malachim mamish avevadei. So that is what happened, is that because he was able to be on this level, he was able to actually send literally angels to Esav. Pasach Rabbi Yitzchak v'amar ksiv chona malach Hashem sav l'rei v'chaltzem. He asks a question. There's another verse in Psalms that says the angel, singular angel of God, protects them. Hakmu, which was also discussed earlier, or not necessarily earlier, but earlier in time, not necessarily earlier in the actual Zohar, but earlier in the discussions that the Chavraya had. So the question is, why there did it earlier say angels in plural, and here it says Malach, a singular angel. So Aval Ba'asar Chad Ksiv Ki Malach Vitzavalach, right? Before it says plural. Malach and Sagin V'Chad Ksiv Chad Malach Hashem Savalei V'Chadsem. So that's the question. Ela Ki Malach Vitzavalach Ilin Shar Malachin. Malach Hashem Savalei V'Dashchinta. So the difference is when it says that he charges his angels, that's going on the angels. You know, we have the 4 archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. We have each one of them has a whole system of 3 angels underneath them, and then many thousands. It's a whole. There are hosts of angels, but the one angel, that's the Shechina. That's why it's singular. But the Malachim, that's plural. Like it says, when Moshe saw that the angel of God appeared to him in the fiery burning bush, that again is a reference to Shechina. In other words, sometimes it says angel, it could be a reference to Shechina. Again, why does the angel of God rest, like encamp, surrounding us, to those who are in awe of God? Why? Very simple. Begin the Shazavalei. Because he wants to surround us for the sake of our protection. That's the Shechina. Again, I just said earlier, one aspect of Shechina is for the sake of protection. I think it's common Mishari and condition Kulus Dam L'Saman. When the Shechina is resting with a person, don't you think all of the kind of helpers of the Shechina, which are the angels, come along with the Shechina? Of course they do. Begin the Shechina Sachalei V'ishtaziv minayhu ma'achish ume'amai kol ina distik is kifubei maksiv yisholo biyadam. So there's a story, and just to give you a little bit of the backstory, which is what the Zohar is about to do, is that King David, he had a couple of questions. One of the questions he had is, why are there like idiots, imbeciles? They're fools that don't seem to have a usefulness, so to speak. And he asked that to God. Then he was on the run from Saul, who was wanting to kill him, and he ran into Achish, the king of Gas, who was his enemy. And what did David do? Because basically they had caught him, is he started acting like he was a shota, like he was a retarded person. And because of that, they let him go. So that's what the the Zohar comments and says that V'yisholel b'yadam, amai v'yisholel v'yishtageh mebayaleh. Why does it say v'yisholel, which is another word of saying he acted a little crazy? Why doesn't it use the conventional word of a meshugana? That he acted like a shigayon, he acted crazy. Why this word? The answer is, I already gave you the answer, so you know it already. So the answer is, he quotes a verse where the word with the sugar word is. The answer is because the Torah was referencing a word that David himself had already earlier used. About his issue that he had, this question that he had regarding these type of people. There it uses again the way the Zohar is interpreting it. This is again a midrashic teaching. It's not clearly in a text, but the idea is you, David, are asking what's the purpose. God tells David, you'll need this. You'll need this idea of these crazy people. Since he went up to the house of Achish and Betzkifu, they were grabbing him. In other words, again, like this same word that already King David questioned God about, that he already brought up earlier, but in other words, what's interesting here to me is that the Shekhinah wasn't just saving him, it was showing him the relevance of something that he thought was irrelevant. He had this issue, so that might see what to me it's a very beautiful little medrash. This isn't the source of this medrash; it's another teaching, another medrash. But to me, what it's kind of adding is by saying, why is he saying that's the Shekhinah? It's because we're trying to establish the idea of Shekhinah as protection. Okay, we got it. Fine, that's a good proof text. But there's so many other stories. It's not like, if you're saying that anytime somebody is saved, it's the Shekhinah, why that story? So one aspect of it might be because the Shekhinah is the one that shows you through your own lack what it is that God is providing you with. It's within the context of the chisaron. I know Rabbi Brandwein is very into this idea of defining what it is that you want spiritually by knowing what it is that you don't, what your the ratzon l'kabel, the desire to receive, creates within it the potential seed of not just receiving for the self, but also the transformation of the self. But or that here, in the sense that this kind of inability to understand something that didn't have a usefulness in his eye at that moment, this is going to actually save your life. This irrelevancy, this seemingly superfluous existence of somebody who shouldn't exist is going to somehow be the saving grace of King David. So again, that could also be why he brings that, because the Shekhinah is the one that comforts you. We say Shekhinah Begalusa. There's a Gemara in Tainus, other Gemaras